Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's second half. Before we jump into tonight's second half, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They all were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into tonight's second half, shall we? Just briefly, real quick. This is not a creepypasta channel. When I talk about Dogman and these creatures and Bigfoot and crawlers, these are not made up stories. There are channels that are out there called creepypasta channels that do that. And they are storytellers. I'm not a storyteller. I'm a researcher and someone that shares information. The experience you are going to hear is a real experience, and I encourage anyone to look into the dates and the locations to factualize it and make sure that it really matches up, because it does. Just like when I did an upload in regards to a couple of Border Patrol agents. Someone said that I had created that story. 2 weeks later, in that same location, the news comes out that these Border Patrol agents were dead of exactly what I said they died of. I encourage you guys to look into this stuff. That's the best way to make sure that things are on the up and up. Don't take everybody at their word. You can't. There are moles in this community, not in this channel's community, but in the cryptozoology community. Government plants moles to lead astray and to confuse people, because with confusion comes deception, and that's what they do. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so the encounters that you are going to hear today are 4 months of burner calls and encrypted emails via PrivNote between me and a gentleman, former Army, about information that went down in Alaska around 2012, November of 2012. Exact date doesn't really matter, but I have it. Now, the information that he has shared with me has been, 4 months here and there. And he started everything off with this Dogman experience, and then some other information that he had found out during his time on Fort Wainwright in Alaska. Now, we have talked about Nephilim and giants for years. The Kandahar giant, giants in Canada, giants in Northern America. Well, In 1944, a military geological unit discovered a Nephilim in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. And apparently, after the discovery of this creature, it was marked for destruction, and a Mark 65 bomb was dropped on its location. Apparently, it was living in a cave system in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Shortly thereafter, a team of Army Airborne Division went in there, Mountain Airborne Division went in there and discovered the large carcass of a 17-foot giant / Nephilim. That's all the information he has on that. That was some digging and some information he acquired. His MOS, he was a 56M, which is a religious affairs specialist. And he has seen combat. He is with the 11th Airborne Division, or was with the 11th Airborne Division, stationed right out of Fort Wainwright, Alaska. And his MOS is basically he helps with the chaplains day to day, but he's also counterintelligence, and during the Iraqi and Afghan wars, he was also counterintelligence in that division as well, being a religious affairs specialist. Kind of like a theologian, I guess. Now, the little bit of information he gathered about that 1944 incident was there was a military geology unit in Alaska. They were doing soil samples and testing to see what kind of damage certain bombs could do in the cold environments. Germany had just kind of crossed over into Soviet Union, and a lot of the fighting was at that time in cold or snowy regions. Well, being that Alaska is our freezer, why not experiment on stuff up there? Lack of inhabitants and stuff. So apparently this unit was up there taking soil samples and testing certain equipment. One or two of the unit members were taken at night at some point, and then there was a small gun battle via our troops with the guns shooting at this giant / Nephilim. And things really weren't working out, and they realized that this needed to be very quickly taken care of, very quietly taken care of. And a Mark 65 was dropped, which is a large 2,000 pound payload bomb back in the 40s. And it's unknown where the body of this giant was taken. That's the information I just shared with you, he shared with me. And that's about as much as he had. I don't know if he has more and he didn't want to share anymore, but judging from our conversations, yes, he may have more information. I asked him about Victor and teams that he's ever heard of, and he said, I don't know him personally, but I do know there are military teams and patrols / units that are out there hunting certain creatures down. As far as he heard that they are not only nationwide, but worldwide. But when and if something is spotted, like such something was spotted in Kandahar Giant, a team would go in and take it out, bring it back, and such jinns. But this is all just information that he shared with me. Now, his Dogman experience all started in late October of 2012 out of Fort Wainwright, the United States Army Northern Warfare Training Center. There had been a small team, a team of 4, that had gone out to the gates of the Arctic National Park, and they had beings that it's part of the 11th Airborne Division. They had parachuted in. This isn't a place that you can just drive in. It's you hike in, or you drop in, or if you can, land a bush plane. So this team of 4 was supposed to report back in 3 or 4 days. They never did. Now, being that he is a specialist, just because the first 2 words are religious affairs specialist, he's a military specialist. He's trained in, he's an 11th Airborne Division. He's a trained killer. When these guys didn't come back and they couldn't reach them on comms, there was a patrol of 18, himself and 17 other black hats or 11th Airborne Division specialists, flown in via bush planes and dropped in to this gates of the Arctic National Park. Now, when they all landed and started to look for these 4 missing soldiers, it was early afternoon, and climate was rather chilly. Obviously, you're in northern Alaska. They are looking for any kinds of signs of life or signs of, maybe these guys, because when they dropped in, their comms kind of, after the first day, there was no other communication. So they're looking for any kind of signs of parachutes, any kinds of signs of clothing, whatnot. Like I said, it's now November and temps are not great, but not like these guys are used to it. This is where they train. This is where they live, train, and play, So daytime is no higher than above freezing, tops 35 degrees. At night, during this time, he remembers vaguely that it was in the minus. They were only going to be set to be there for 2 days because of the weather that would be rolling in. They get there, they see signs of the chutes, which is kind of strange. How they were just kind of laid out. They weren't kind of rolled up or bagged up or anything. They were just there, like these guys just dropped in and took their chutes off and went. Now, they followed some tracks that they had easily picked up, and they got to a region where there was large ridges on either side. It's very, very cold at this point when they got to this portion of the land, because it was like a wind tunnel. Where they dropped in, it was more open, and when they got to this area where they followed these tracks, even though there were trees, but still it was more or less kind of like a wind tunnel. They set up a quick base camp, and they kind of start to patrol and look for these 4 missing men. They do not find any other tracks except the tracks that led them to this area. They start to notice some wildlife carcasses up on this kind of smaller ridge. Bones, frozen, just frozen meat, and quite a bit of it, which they thought, this isn't that weird. There are bear up here, obviously. So, let's be on point. Let's be careful. Nightfall comes, and he remembers vividly seeing the northern lights, because it was just this, really bright, kind of eerie light, which set the tone. And then they could hear these howls out in the distance, closer to where those carcasses were, the animal carcasses. But they could tell that they were moving, and they really couldn't tell if they were moving towards them or if they were going, more north of where they were. Well, the howling stops, and they very lightly sleep that night with the cold, with the excitement, and just they want to find these guys they obviously at this point do believe it's going to be, not a rescue mission, but a retrieval mission, unfortunately. And that's exactly what it was. Morning comes, and they start to notice some tracks had been through and around their camp. It's a very large canine, but yet human-like prints. Very long canine prints. He said if you took your dog's paw and you put it in the snow and you pulled back on it maybe an inch or two, kind of like that, what that would look like. And they're like, what the hell is... Did you guys hear anything? I didn't hear anything. We heard those howls. These are too big to be wolves. Okay, well, let's find out where our guys are. So they start patrolling and not patrolling, but they're looking, and now they're in the woods. They can hear the movement of trees, but it doesn't sound like the wind is moving the trees. It sounds like something else is moving within the trees. And at one point, one of the guys sees one of these dogmen, and it is kind of propped up about 20 feet in a tree, staring down at him. And he kind of falls back, telling everyone, hey, this is what I just saw. Wolves, the other guys are like, wolves are not in trees. Are you seeing something? Are you, snowblind? What's going on? Pretty soon, they all had started to see the almost same exact thing as the first guy. Large wolf-like creature in the trees. And now they're like, what the hell are we dealing with here? Comms, they call back to command and say, hey, we've got an unknown animal or animals tracking us as we are looking for these men. It's said not to engage unless they attack or, engage on them. So, okay, yeah. And they come to this frozen stream, smaller kind of river. It's about 6 feet across. And they see a kind of cave opening across from it. And they notice that there's blood. And they see remnants of their fellow soldiers' gear and clothing. Winterized military jacket, etc. And they very quickly and very cautiously cross this rather large stream. They don't know how deep it is. They know it is frozen enough to cross over, even though it's only early November. I mean, we are talking early November. These guys, the guys that went missing, have only been missing for, now we're into 6 days. As they get to this cave opening, they start to look around, look in the cave, and they do start to see remnants of their fellow soldiers. And they start to hear growls. Growls inside the cave and outside of the cave. It's then said that if at any chance or any point these creatures even make the hint of attacking, it's time for engagement. We've got to recover these 4 guys. We're going to have to somehow figure out a way of getting in this cave, luring whatever's in there out, and putting it down. So at about that time, they are coming up with a plan of attack. 2 Dogmen flank this 7 or 18-man patrol. The guy that I had spoken to he'd be the 18th. From both sides. And you've got one in front of you in the cave. That would be the 3 that they initially all saw. They are equipped with M4s, and their M4s are equipped with M320 A1s, grenade launchers. They start shooting, and as the engagement goes on, the Dogmen are very quickly pushed back. Automatic rifle, even though it's 5.56, it's an automatic rifle. It's not a semi-automatic. So with multiple shots coming at you, you got one Dogman on one side, one Dogman on the other, and another in front of you, and you've got 18 men. So you've got 6, 6, and 6 on each one. They're getting pushed back. If it was, he said, if it was a single guy, or let's say a group of whatever, armed with semi-automatic rifles, these things would have easily taken us out. We took them out with superior firepower. One of the guys had launched a grenade, a 40 millimeter grenade, at one of the creatures with the M320, blowing it to just blood. There's just mist of blood. The one is now coming out of the cave, and it is a light gray, whitish, red color. It is covered in blood and viscera, like it had been eating whatever was in the cave with it, which they knew to be their fellow airbornes and airborne rangers. And very quickly they put that down. They call command and say, hey, this is what just occurred. We have put these things down. One's completely blown to pieces. The one that came out of the cave where the bodies are is, laying in front of us now. The other is obviously, dead as well. What should we do? Okay, now it's a retrieval mission. Get the 4 men out of the cave, get whatever rifles, whatever, any kind of military valuable out of that, with those bodies. Get them the hell out, get the stuff out, and get to a open area where we can land a bush plane and get you guys out of there. So during the point of the retrieval, they get to a open location, probably about a quarter of a mile away from this cave area, and it's large enough to land a bush plane, pretty open area. But once again, they're in an open area where there is a kind of wind tunnel. So they let command know, hey, it might be a little rough setting a plane down or taking off in a plane where we are, but we can't go any further. It would be almost, impossible without leaving these 4 men behind. So while on comms with command, okay, we will figure this out. New part of the mission is retrieve the 2 carcasses of the creatures that you put down, bring them back to base with you as well. It's pertinent that you do. And go into the cave and see if there's anything in the cave and blow the cave. So go in it, look around. If there's anything of any kind of whatever, retrieve it and then blow it up. No questions asked. That's what they do. And it takes 4 of these guys who train in this, environment daily for, years to haul these monsters out of there. So 8 men to move 2 of these things. They get them positioned, and they notice that as they're lugging them, there's a filthy stink, and it's staying on the guys who have touched it, touched these bodies, and it's just very, very bad smell of, rot and disgust. It's making a few of the guys sick as they're moving these things. So it's told, stay there. We're not picking you up in a bush plane. Beings that there's 18 of you on top of 4 bodies, and now 2 of these things that weigh somewhere between 400 and 500 pounds. We're sending in 2 UH-60M Blackhawks to get you. About an hour and 20 minutes from Fairbanks to the gates of the Arctic. These 2 Blackhawks land. everyone's loaded and brought back to Fort Wainwright. The team is brought into a debriefing room. The stink is still on the guys from these creatures. The last time that these guys saw their four teammates and these two dogmen were when they left the Blackhawks, when they landed at Fort Wainwright. As they are sitting in this room, getting debriefed, usually it would be the commander of the base or of that mission. This time it was via computer screen call. And 2012, it's very limited. You don't see faces, you hear a voice, and everything's just transmitted via the phone line and computer. So it's pretty much, are there any questions of what these things were? What were these things? What they are is classified. What they are is a military asset gone wrong. Weapon of war. You're not allowed to speak of these things, speak of this mission ever. Nor are you in trouble for putting down an asset. You were following orders. But because these things are a weapon of war and classified, you are not to speak about them. Which that brings in what Victor told us 4 years ago. And at the end of this debriefing, everybody is, told what to say, what not to say, and dismissed. None of the 18 guys talk about what they see, what they did. Nothing. It's quietly forgotten about. But during that time is when he starts to, being that his MOS is what it is, he has certain levels of access that he's allowed to, and certain people, it's certain things he can access. So he starts to figure out, what the hell are these things? What are these things, used for? And he eventually discovers about the tagging and usage of these creatures, transponders, etc. Also is during this point of his career is when he discovers a military cover-up in 1944 in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, which is, bordering Canada, hundreds of miles east of where they just were. And that's when he discovers, and starts to read about this information, classified information. And he has sat on this information since, this was November of 12. He didn't find out about the incident in 44 until like 2013. So 10 plus years now. And with everything that's going on nowadays, he really believes that these Nephilim have remained hidden in these caves, these underground caves, which would be under rivers, in mountainsides, anywhere human accessibility is limited for these things to hide and wait for whatever it is, the end of days or what, He didn't find any information on that, but he did say, it is evident that these things are known about and that these things being hidden is a priority for the world's government to keep these things a secret. And he said, a lot of these, when people are talking about the Euphrates and talking about these cave systems that are showing up, and cave systems that are showing up in the Mississippi, with the Mississippi drying up as well. There's some old cave systems found there too, that these monsters are hidden, and that he does believe that we may be seeing more of these things come out. I asked him about the whole Andrew Dawson thing, and he couldn't comment on who or what was responsible for that disappearance, but he said the reason why there is that facility built on that mountain is for the reason of hiding that Nephilim that is up there, or was up there. It is now been taken out. That's what Andrew caught that one day where he thought he saw a UFO. That was some sort of device designed to quietly eradicate it. So, I don't know, but 4 months of conversations and between a burner cell phone and an encrypted email priv note, the information that I just shared with you is, the thing that caught me the most was not his experience, not his Dogman experience, but this whole thing in 44. And one of these creatures, Nephilim creatures, attacking, this military geology unit as they are testing soil samples, frozen tundra soil samples for possible use of best weapons in World War II. It's crazy. And it's crazy that our government has known about these things for that long, probably even longer. It just makes you think how long. Because our country is fairly new compared to the rest of the world. But, how long into the country's existence before we found out about these things existing, it just That's scary in itself. And that was tonight's second half. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. And I do honestly encourage everyone to look into these dates. If there's, oh, this wasn't created at that point, look into it, because I do. Like today's first half, I shared those information, the people's information, purposely, because there is a 5-state hotspot. I believe 100%. Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Kentucky are the main hotspot for the East Coast. Everything goes up and down from there. There may be a couple of others on the outside of, or on the opposite side of the country, but on the East Coast, that 5-state hotspot is where these creatures are doing the most damage. And they go up and down. They spread out. I hope you all enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Thank you for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that keeps the channel growing and going. And honestly, what gives people a chance to share their experiences and theories judgment-free. Just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.